All right, PitchGround, we're back for another webinar with the Pathfix team. Please welcome Samira and Ralph to the call. They're going to be joining us from India. As you guys know, I'm coming to you guys live from New York. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go over really quickly what Pathfix is and dive into the problems in the industry for SaaS founders, especially, and developers when it comes to OAuth integration. So Samira, why don't you share with us what Pathfix is really quickly, and then we can dive into those questions.
Sure. Hi, Richard. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be back here. So just a quick introduction on what Pathfix is. Pathfix is an OAuth proxy solution that enables SaaS integrations a lot faster. So essentially, we are a solution that enables you to move away from managing OAuth servers, downloading SDKs, installing them, and managing them for any of your service providers.
Awesome. And why don't we go into a brief introduction of who you guys are and what you guys do for the company?
Right. So, well, I am the CEO of the company and I manage the day-to-day operations of it. And I'll let Ralph jump in here.
Yeah, I'm the CEO as well as the tech brain behind whatever is going on in Pathfix. Yes, so besides technology, there's a lot of business strategy, partnership alliances, that fall under my domain at Pathfix.
Awesome. So yesterday we discussed why this product was created, because we noticed that there was such a huge issue having a development team just spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours just setting up an integration that already exists. And all it really needed was that bridge to connect these processes faster. And, based on what we've heard from you guys yesterday, Pathfix allows various SaaSes to implement these integrations within a matter of minutes. So it saves time, it saves money, and it helps people, especially SaaS developers and founders, scale their business faster, correct?
Yes, that is right. So with the traditional methods of developing your own, the OAuth connection, the bridge between your application and any other SaaS platform, it would take you, many developer hours for you to not just build the OAuth server, but the framework. And we're talking about looking for a certain SDK that you would want for that functionality to work. So what we've done is we've taken away all of that pain and we help you enable that in less than 5 minutes. So if you want to go deep down, and sort of dig into how many hours we're talking about, I could probably show that to you. We have that on our website as well. We do have a calculator that sort of shows you, how many hours it would take depending on the number of integrations you're looking at. So if that is something that you want, we could dive into that right now.
Please. I'm always a visual guy, so if you could show me how much of an impact it makes, I definitely would be shocked.
Sure, perfect. So if you can actually see the screen, I'm not sure if the sharing has... Okay, perfect. So this is essentially available on our website. If you go just to the homepage, you would see a tab there that says calculate your ROI. Once you come to this page, you could just simply click on the number of integrations, and standard procedure is any SaaS that, essentially wants to cater to their users' needs starts with a minimum of 5 integrations. So if we just start with, with 5 integrations, just to give you a sense of how many hours of, development time it would take, you would see that, in order for you to build out 5 integrations, it would take approximately 2,548 senior engineering hours. And this could cost, anywhere from 160,000 and up. And that this is taking a senior engineer's, standard hourly rate. And that is where we got that number from. So if you actually look at the breakdown that has happened, so we actually give you a breakdown of what we are referring to when we say 2,500 hours. So there is the setup and configuration of your OAuth servers. There is the actual implementation of the OAuth flow, because each service provider requires a certain flow to be maintained. Although OAuth is a standard protocol that needs to be followed, there are still certain requirements that each of the service providers might have. So these include, additional encryption or an additional layer, that an additional flow that they might require. So you have, taking that into consideration. There is, of course, when you build out the integration, build the OAuth connection, there is a entire token system that needs to be built and managed. So so that this is how many hours it would take for you. It would take about 600 hours for you to implement completely secure and encrypted storage for your refresh tokens that would essentially speak with the service provider. Right? And then additionally, you also have, there is a logic that would be applied to each access token as and when that is required by the provider. There is, obviously we have, there is a revoke access refresh token that comes into play. So we handle that as well. So if you, there is a system that needs to be in place for you to be able to handle any sort of refresh tokens that have been revoked due to either inactivity or that is a requirement by the service provider, right? There is also the outage. So there might be some, outage issues. You'll need to put logic in place so you're able to handle all of those issues as well. There is also the, we build and implement the system to track any sort of errors that might come in when you're trying to connect, because sometimes it might be from the service providers and sometimes the message that you might have sent may have been incorrect. So in order for you to make sure that your system is running and for you to debug easily, you need to be able to build and implement a system that actually tracks all these errors, right? And the most important of all is finding and implementing the right SDKs, right? Because SDKs as such are, are available from each service provider. And sometimes, when you're looking for a certain functionality, you need to search for specific libraries on the web. And that takes a lot of time because you need to find the right libraries as well. And of course, once you've done all of that, there's an ongoing server maintenance that happens, right? So putting all of this together, it would take you anywhere from 2,500 engineering hours and up. So what we've done is we're saving you these many hours and we allow you to implement that integration, that connection with the service provider in less than 5 minutes without being, without managing the servers, without downloading any SDKs or managing, ongoing errors or the entire refresh token, the token management system itself with Pathfix.
So when people, when we actually speak to people and we ask them that, how many hours do they think it will take, the usual estimation that they come up with only factors in 2 or 3 of these components because they look at it as an extension and not as a module by itself. Now, yes, you can look at it as an extension if you're doing 1 integration or 2 integrations, but that's not how the world is sort of evolving. It's evolving into hyper-specialized SaaS integrations. In fact, Gartner, in its recent report, has said that 50% of all development costs are going to, are going to attribute towards an integration strategy inside a company. So, you need to factor in a serious integration strategy, looking at all of the aspects that your integration needs you to handle. And it's no more about just downloading libraries, unsupported SDKs, version control, maintaining older versions. When the whole world is moved towards allowing you to integrate using standard REST API calls, we should as a discipline stop downloading libraries for this purpose.
Okay, that totally makes sense. So now that you're speaking about version history and staying up to date, essentially, how does Pathfix play a role in that?
So, as I mentioned earlier, so REST is an open standard for communication over the internet, and all integration providers expose their APIs through REST integration protocols or REST integration documentation. Now, if I were to implement my integration using something like a Node.js or something like a Python, I would actually include libraries from that language which will internally make REST calls to the provider. Now that is necessarily, not necessarily needed, but I do that because, it adds a layer of convenience, even though it is not supported, or even though it's free open source code. Uh, it so happens that, people more often than not just go and download these libraries and then fall into the nightmare from a longer term perspective, because managing all of this becomes a little bit of nightmarish. Now the technology that is being used as a standard all throughout is make a call using a REST protocol, send normal HTTP methods, push, post, get, delete. They're all very standard functions, and they're available in every language. So what Pathfix does is, because it presents itself as a pass-through server, you don't really have to, do any language specific coding. You know how to do a REST call in your language, do it, send it through the Pathfix server, and your integration problem is solved.
It seems like it's a very straightforward, very simple integration where you don't have to learn an entire new platform to get the implementation that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, yeah, we've tried to focus as far as possible on simplicity. Like the shortest path. So we actually come from a developer mindset, and we see that, okay, uh, why would I go and download a library? Because because of the convenience that it's offering me. But what if I don't find a library? Is it healthy for the company to download a library which is not supported by anybody and release it as part of my production code? If I'm actually, it's not only about a library, it's about the whole integration strategy, it's the whole integration module. uh, you know am I safe to just download something and continuously maintain that, or as a developer, is there any other way to do it? Now, what Pathfix allows you to do is isolate that complete complexity, giving you the luxury of writing 3 lines of code to push your messages across systems, without having to worry about the server infrastructure, the encryption, the decryption, the token store, the validation of access tokens, the regeneration of access tokens. All of this is taken care of by Pathfix.
Awesome. So I guess a question that I saw come up was whether or not by using Pathfix for all these various integrations, what do you guys have in place for like security as well as like high, I guess, loads of traffic? Does that affect Pathfix in any way?
Yes, it does, but we've handled it. So, yes, for systems, for systems which are actually built as platforms, scaling is really a primary concern. So we did handle the security question yesterday, but I'll touch upon that once again a little bit after this. But having said that, scale is an issue, yes, and we realized it quite early in the day. We actually have adopted a new container technology on our servers, which allows server scaling to be more or less seamless, uh, and effortless. So we've got our act sorted from the server infrastructure side. Not only server scaling for messages, but also the database scaling uh, is what we've taken care of. If we try to look at what we've done for security, everything is behind a firewall, nothing is accessible, and we've also given our users keys to be able to open or allow or disallow access to calls from various IPs, to honor calls from various JavaScript origins. So we've tried to take care of as many possibilities are there for people to be able to access our stores.
Okay, excellent. I guess another question that we have coming in is, what industries can use Pathfix, and can you share a couple of examples of how they would, I guess, use Pathfix to solve their development questions or development issues?
Right. So I've actually have a whole list over here because as far as I understand, is that every company will need to use some form of SaaS integration, whether or not they choose to use Pathfix. They would have to use uh, some kind of a SaaS integration strategy. Uh, a few of them that come to mind in the SaaS space are analytics related. There are a lot of marketing analytics companies that pull information from various marketing analytics marketing platforms, like so a tool that would pull information from Google Analytics, that will pull information from uh, things like Marketo and HubSpot, and provide an additional layer of functionality related to the marketing. CRM tools, which actually push and pull information about prospects, either originating from the website or from other systems. Calendar management tools, so for example, we're using Zoom right now. So, Zoom integrates with your calendar. At this point, it just, it, the calendar invite goes in through the mail, but it could actually update your calendar. Calendly is a very good example, who uses a lot of SaaS integrations to actually present the solution to begin with. Besides analytics softwares, chatbot platforms, people building chatbot platforms, uh, your chatbots cannot, actually sit in isolation. A chatbot on your website, which is receiving requests or receiving prospects and leads, would actually have to integrate into internal systems, into internal CRMs, into internal lead qualification systems, into event calendars if people wanted to book demos. So for example, Drift is a very good software which actually uses a lot of SaaS integrations to actually, expose your calendar and make it available for prospects to book times on your calendars. Uh, uh, the the other ones, which are not non-conventional, people really do not think that these areas would actually be needing SaaS integrations, but healthcare and financial services are also moving into this you know into this kind of a philosophy. Not sure how many of you would have looked at this company called Availity, which actually consolidates all the APIs to all insurance companies and payers, which and then offers you APIs where you can pull in eligibility, benefits, claims information, premium payments, all of those, for across hundreds of payment vendors and insurance vendors, which actually opens up, a whole different avenue for companies building softwares on healthcare and insurance platforms. Another one, which is actually very interesting, is financial related companies or financial related softwares. Here again, I'd like to quote a company called Blade, which is doing something very similar to what Availity does, but with banking services, where it actually talks to all of your banking servers and exposes the APIs to consumers who would like to build softwares, on on banking statements, who'd want to give you further analysis on transactions, further analysis on liabilities and investments. So financial services is also, a space which is very, very interesting for integrations. A few other things, that I could mention over here is analytical dashboards. People trying to create dashboards by pulling data. There's a whole lot of data out there sitting in several applications. And based on the vertical that you want to target, you can actually build a dashboard which is, very specific to a specific need. I mean, marketing analytics, comes to mind. Sales analytics comes to mind. Your task management analytics. Uh, you know, so there are several companies which are building vertical analytics dashboards, which are also, heavily dependent on integrations. One other, I've already mentioned a lot, do you want me to continue? Because,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
have, yeah. So I'll probably cover one last one. There's one more, interesting category of identity consolidation that is actually cropping up. What does this mean? Is that, the whole world is subscribing to a lot of SaaS softwares, and enterprise, are facing challenges managing users across all of these softwares, which actually leads to a problem of identity consolidation. So, so three of us, on this call, we've all subscribed to a bunch of different softwares. But what if, on behalf of the same company, but the administrator would need to know, the administrator or the operations manager would need to know and be able to manage user identities across softwares. So identity consolidation inside different verticals is also an area that, would be heating up, with more and more specialized softwares coming up.
Excellent. And it's also important to think about not just on the development end, but also on the consumer end, right? Their experience overall with the platform can be altered completely based on the I guess the SaaS's ability to scale up as well as maintain these integrations. So it's funny that you mentioned Zoom, because Zoom and Facebook currently have this issue with their integration where we can't go live, and the workaround is just to record it and then post it live later. So
Yeah, but
something
I
as
think these
simple
are
as
just
that, right?
temporary. These are just temporary problems. So Zoom not being able to integrate with Facebook is a temporary problem. But what Facebook does for the world is present itself as a social media platform, and what Zoom does is allows communication. Now, to publish a communication on a social media platform, Zoom would never go ahead and build a social media platform. And Zoom's strategy to actually communicate, or push videos and live conferences onto Facebook or onto, platforms like Instagram or Twitter makes a lot of sense, because, it adds just an integration strategy has added so much benefit, to Zoom's primary offering of communications.
100%, I agree. And that's the things that we need to think about, especially if you're a SaaS founder and you're looking to scale your business. Instead of having to try to develop code for a different industry, a different platform, if it's already available to you and all you have to do is do a 5-minute integration through Pathfix, that's a no-brainer.
Right. Absolutely.
Excellent. So are there any other, I guess, challenges in the industry that our SaaS founders should think about when they're thinking about integration strategy and how to move forward with development?
Not really challenges, but this is more of a subject of discussion that I'd like to actually place over here. Is that with softwares like which allow you to build integration workflows, uh, as we mentioned yesterday as well, you do need a skilled mindset to understand how the data is going to flow between all of these SaaS applications. Uh, so what you're saying over here is that you've provided, 5 different categories of SaaS applications, and then you have one person trying to stitch all of it together without really understanding the completeness of the solution. Now, it does make a lot of sense for each of the SaaS application providers to decide uh, the extent of integration or the extent of functionality that an end user would get value out of. So, for example, you're looking at, say, a CRM software, and you want to publish a message onto the Slack community every time a prospect is closed or a deal is won. Now, it's a very simple solution, and you can go to a workflow management tool and say that, when the CRM system triggers, uh, an event of a deal won, push the message onto the Slack channel so that the team, the rest of the team is also motivated that a a deal has come in. But wouldn't it be better for the CRM tool to push that directly into Slack and not really have that, that be the integrator's problem? Now, it's a small value add, but when you actually add it all up together, you realize that the integration strategies are not about one or two integrations. It's about a complete insertion into your end user stack or workspace. You want your CRM to seem like it is working with all of the other softwares, like an orchestra, like as a part of an orchestra, working with all of the other softwares, and appearing to be very smooth in doing so. You don't really want to have somebody else, come and tweak things and not tweak it as well as you would have intended it to be.
That makes sense.
So yeah. So this is, so the reason I bring this up is it's a common discussion that, crops up is that, oh, okay, there are a lot of these systems that work on triggers and actions. And, my response to them is that how much time do you have to understand all of these triggers and actions? And, how many of these softwares do you understand? How many of their triggers do you understand? And the person stitching it all together or gluing it all together, what is, how much do you want him to understand about all of these softwares? Tomorrow you've got a new software coming in. Do you want to really understand all the triggers that software offers? Or should it be that software's responsibility to plug into, the end user's workspace?
That makes a lot of sense. And that's a completely different conversation, right? Like one is either you try to catch up to somebody and the other is you're already ahead of the game. So
yeah.
Definitely don't want to be trying to play catch up all the time.
In fact, that is a very nice way to put it, Richard.
Awesome. So it looks like we're running out of time, but I think we have about 5 more minutes. So is there anything else that you guys would like to share with potential SaaS founders watching this call where they may be overlooking something that could be critical to their business, from either their ability to scale or resolving maybe integration problems? I know we already covered time and money. That's usually the 2 biggest things that people are concerned about, but is there anything else that they may be overlooking?
I don't know. I could cover a few features, a few discussions that we probably missed out yesterday, which were actually related to companies which actually deal with softwares that offer subtenancy. Do you understand what a subtenancy, Richard, or do you want me to
Oh, please share.
explain?
I have no idea
Okay.
what that is.
All right. So tenancy is like, you've got a software out there, you've got a piece of, got a CRM software, a company signs up onto the CRM software and, uses it. So, that company becomes a tenant of your CRM software. But then you have, companies which allow you to build, further softwares and then offer those to your companies, which are more platform level companies. So your first level tenant is not your end user, right? Your first level tenant is not your end user. Your end user is your customer's customer, if I've put that correctly. So that actually involves subtenancy. Now those companies also do have, a lot of trouble trying to implement all of this, not only because now what you're doing is you're not offering it to just your end customer, but you're offering to your customer's customer. So your end user has moved further down the chain. Now Pathfix actually allows you to do that by simply, modifying a few user IDs. You're able to manage, all of your integrations for a subtenant structure without actually having to pull your hair out. And once we've actually launched our user collaboration features, you're going to have a lot more fun with Pathfix. So.
Nice. So we're definitely going to go dive into that on Monday. I think you just open the bag right there.
Yeah, I did that.
Give
Yeah.
our viewers a hint of what's to come. So to give everybody an idea of what's happening on Monday, we're gonna go into the features of Pathfix, how to use it, various use cases. I have about a list of 8 different use cases so far and growing. And we're also going to talk about the end user authorization and communication between integrations. So if you guys are on the developer side, if you guys are curious about what features Pathfix will be offering, make sure you tune in on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And then on Tuesday, we're going to do a full onboarding and full walkthrough of Pathfix from start to finish, from new user enrollment to integrating various integrations and showing you how to access various API keys, secret keys, etc., to achieve whatever you need to accomplish with your products. So if you guys are curious about what's to come, make sure you guys are signing up for our webinar. I will be posting the link to our Facebook page at 12 p.m. Eastern every on Monday and Tuesday. So make sure you guys turn on your notifications to our page so that way you guys know when we go live. So thank you for your time today, guys. We really appreciate you joining us. We're really excited to see what you guys will be showing us next week. So take care. Have a great weekend.
Excited ourselves. Thanks, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.